Hi, this is Toye and welcome to my free video series on tools and techniques. Today I am offering you part 2 of the mouth atomizer. In part 1 I described the mouth atomizer, and in part 2 I'm going to show you how to use the atomizer. And I think it's really best if you do watch part 1 before you watch part 2, or at least try to use your atomizer. Both of those parts are really useful for understanding how the atomizer works and using it to your best benefit. The first thing I want to talk about is safety, and I think it's very important that you always use caution whenever dealing with paints, and therefore it's a very good idea to use a face mask. When you spray paint out of this atomizer, it is not finely atomized like it is out of a spray can. Most of the paint should fall to your surface, well, and it spreads just about everywhere else, but it's heavy, it's pretty heavy, and it will fall. But I think it's very important to still use caution. And you say, well, Joe, how am I going to get this to my mouth and still use a face mask? So what I do is I take off this tube. It's food grade tubing, and I take that off so I can make the smallest slit in my mask that I can, and then I just stick it through there, and then I put the tubing back on. And then when you place this on your face, you've just got that small opening and you can spray through that. So I'm going to set this aside, and you can use this is a hospital type, and then this is the type that you just get at your home improvement stores. The second thing that you're going to need with your mouth atomizer, of course, is your paint. And I talk about this in the first video, so I won't belabor it here. But you do want to, when spraying white, it is the hardest paint to spray. You want to have as much paint as possible in this intake tube. So I suggest you buy the 4-ounce bottle of white titanium paint so that you have this much paint in there when you start to spray, and it's easier to pull it up. One thing you might say is, well, Joe, what happens when I start using this paint? Of course, the level is going to go down, and yes, then you will only have this much paint in your tube. And this is what I do in my studio, is I buy a large bottle of the High Flow Titanium White, and I refill this bottle and always spray out of this bottle. And fortunately, the white High Flow is one of the least expensive paints that you can buy as far as acrylics. So you can also just get another 4-ounce bottle and continue to use that 4-ounce bottle until it's gone, and then of course just keep replacing it. Because I use a lot of it, I go ahead and get the 16-ounce. Now remember, before you spray, you want to hear that ball, that mixing ball, because you need to get the sediment mixed up. This is where all of your pigment is, and that mixing ball tells you that that sediment has broken free and it's mixing with the liquid inside. And so before you pour this larger container or your other 4-ounce, be sure that this also is shaken to a point where you hear that mixing ball, or all you'll be doing is pouring liquid in there and none of the pigment. Okay? Today I'm going to show you spraying the white onto black, because it is the hardest thing to do, and it is also kind of my signature technique. That's one thing I use in my book a lot. You'll see it there in 2 of the techniques, and I just want to demonstrate with that. The other thing that, and I'm going to show you with an assortment of stencils. The other thing that you need to understand is that you need to tilt this surface. You need this at an angle. You either need it up on a vertical surface, or you need it at an angle. And what I do is I take a full-size roll of paper towels, and I use my 22 by 30 painting support, my gator board, and I just slip this paper towels under the back of it there, and it gives me just about the perfect angle. And you say, well, Joe, why do I need that angle? And it's really just for a very practical reason, is you always want to be spraying at pretty much at a right angle when you spray. Otherwise, if you're spraying at less than a 90-degree angle, you'll undercut your stencil. And what would happen if you have your stencil flat on the table and the surface you're going to spray on flat on the table, you're going to bend over to get 90 degrees, and of course all your paint is going to pour onto your surface. So that's why you want to keep it at an angle, and therefore you can spray. It doesn't have to be exactly a 90-degree angle, but that way you can start to spray and have it angled towards the piece without worrying about your paint flowing out. The other thing that we're going to use today is stencils, and I have a variety of stencil materials. Let me move this out of the way. Everything from these really cool funky glue gun stencils that I make, and I'll be doing a video on this. I don't have time in this one to go over it. You can see my book, it's in there, so that explains itself. And I'm not sure if I have anything on my web as far as a PDF goes for that yet, but and then you can use any found object, like this is lace. This is rug backing that you get and put underneath your rugs, like at Home Depot. This is a sink strainer, and I think I got it at, you know, some probably 99-cent store or Ace or something, and this works great. It just really does a neat pattern. And then of course you can use bought stencils. The neat thing about doing your glue gun stencils is they're uniquely yours, and you don't ever have to worry about selling your work with this pattern in it, because it's your pattern and it's unique and nobody else will have it. You can also take paper, and this is just using a die cutting tool that you get like at Michael's or one of the hobby stores, and I just cut the edges out, and when you spray through that, it gives a really neat pattern. This is a really cool pattern here. This is just the edge of some of my art paper, and you tear your paper off here and you're left with this. So if you tear this out, you get this really cool square pattern that's kind of irregular because you have these cutouts here. So that is, and then this is a glue gun stencil before it gets all yucky with paint. And so just wanted to show you those. Also, I have made a, let me move this aside so you can see it better. I have made a really large glue gun stencil, and I will show you that when I do how you could do that when I show you the glue gun video. Okay, so let's get to spraying some paint. So the first thing you need is you have to choose which stencil you're going to use. Now I'm going to pick this stencil just because it has a neat pattern, and some of you won't have glue gun stencils yet because you haven't made them. And so you can just get just about anything, like I said. Now, one thing you have to remember is that when you go to spray with your mouth atomizer, that spray is going to go far and wide. It may not linger in the air real long like spray paint, but it is going to go far and wide. So on your painting surface, when you get ready to spray, you want to remove things like your favorite lamp, your cat, your drinking container. I have lots of plastic drinking containers that are spattered with white. And as I speak, I see that my very favorite lamp is sitting right here on the table, and it's going to get spattered with white, and I don't want that to happen. So I just moved that away. So always make sure that nothing in the vicinity you want to get spray paint on, such as your table mate at a workshop. And you will just lay your stencil down and you can spray. Now let me just say one thing, is because you know the paint is going to go far and wide, we are going to get overspray over all of this black. And if you do not want that to happen, you need to protect that area. So just take plain copy paper, and you can put copy paper underneath that stencil and on top of that black, so that when you spray, that white is contained to just this area. Let me caution you, one thing is that you will get a hard edge there because you have that hard edge paper there. So if you want it to be you really don't want hard edges, your other option is, before you spray, is to cover your whole surface with a variety of stencils. And therefore, when you go to spray, even though this will overspray, it will pick up the pattern that is sitting there, and then you can move over and spray that area, and everything will kind of blend together. So you have the option of doing either one. Now today I'm just going to put the white there because it will give you a better example. You'll be able to see it a little bit more clearly what I'm doing piece by piece. So I'm just putting this paper underneath there. Remember that this table surface is tilted probably at a maybe 30-degree angle, I would say. I'm going to take my white paint. I've already shaken it, and don't know if my head's going to get in here, so forgive it if it is. You will put your atomizer down into the paint. Now, if you're using the 4-ounce bottle, you don't have to worry. It is not going to hit the bottom. You never want the bottom of this tube sitting on the bottom of your paint because it will inhibit the action of it being able to pull the paint up. And like I say in the book and in my other video, you want to act like you're blowing out a birthday cake that has at least 30 candles on it. So you don't want to just go, you want to go, okay? So that's what I'm going to do here, especially with the white paint. Okay, here we go. Now, if you'll notice, I sprayed some area and then I went back. I'm watching what kind of coverage I get, and you'll put as much coverage on there as you want. Sometimes you want a light coat, sometimes you want a heavier coat. Now, before I take that up, and the nice thing about this spray is you can pretty much remove your stencils right away. It dries pretty quickly. I'm spraying on Yupo here. That takes a little bit longer, but I want to show you what you need to do with this atomizer once you get done spraying. What you do not want to do is leave it sitting in the paint like this, and the reason why is you have drawn the paint up to here, and now the paint that is in the tube, which is keeping it from drying out, is only up to here. So your paint all the way up to here could dry, from here to here can dry out, and you don't want that to happen. The outside of the atomizer can get as grody as you want, and if you see mine, like this one is pretty grody, but you never want this tube here to have paint remain in it because that restricts the airflow. So what I do is when I'm done, oh, the other thing you don't want to do is lay this down and just let it sit there. Why? Because all that paint's going to dry inside that intake tube. So it's a very simple fix, and the atomizer doesn't take a bunch of maintenance like an airbrush or anything. All you do is take that atomizer out of your paint and make sure that this intake tube is totally in the water. This tube, it doesn't matter if it's in the water, but this intake tube has to be totally in there. And you could just let it sit like that as long as water is in there. And what I do is I just, when I get ready to clean it, I just keep dipping it and getting some water through. Then I take it to the sink, and I'm going to move this aside just so I can have two hands. I take it to the sink and I hold it under the faucet and I just let that water run through there. Then I take a container of clean water and I spray clean water through it and just keep spraying and spraying to make sure that all that clean water has come up and got out anything that is in the tube. The other thing I want to caution you about is after you place this in the water, if you go to spray again, there is still water in here. And so you need to get that out because you'll dilute your paint. So all I do is I take it and I just tap it on a paper towel like this, and that will force any water. First of all, I blow through it and get out as much water as I can, and then I tap it and get the rest of the water out. And you always need to be careful if you're changing colors between, especially like you've just sprayed black, and you're gonna then spray white, you have to be sure that all that black paint is out of here and out of this tube, because you'll put it in your white and then you'll contaminate that color with the previous color. So clean it out, and then when you're done, spray it very, very well with just air. Spray the water through, then spray air through it, and then tap it like this, and you should get the majority of the water out of there. Let's see what we got. Okay, we'll take this away. This is always a really fun part. Okay, this is the oohs and ahs when you do a class in a workshop, because this is so cool. Okay, isn't that cool? Now, you can see that this undercut a little bit, and some of that is that this is Yupo. Yupo doesn't give as clean of a spray as your watercolor paper that you have gessoed black, and just because it spreads a little bit, but it just happened that this Yupo was all that I had. And you can see that where I put down the copy paper, we have a really hard edge. Now let's say we want to spray again, and I'm just going to use my glue gun stencils here. I can go ahead and overlap that so that I get a little bit less of that hard edge, and let's see what happens when I do that. Okay. You can see here, this time I did not put anything down, so I got this overspray. And let's see what we got here. All right, cool. So now this pattern has gone in wherever that was open. You still have that hard edge, and you're going to have that, and you're going to have to deal with it if you choose to do it that way. You can see that the soft overspray, I can still now take another stencil. Let's take the circle one because it's very easy to see. I'm going to take this circle one and spray again. And you can see that that soft overspray really doesn't really cause that much of a problem. If you need it really neat and undisturbed the rest of your paper, then you need to use some kind of mask. But if you like this kind of all over pattern without these hard edges, you'll want to just either do it one at a time like I did there, or lay down all your stencils and then you spray. So that is going to be it for this video. I will do spraying inks and diluted acrylic onto white paper in part B of part 2, because this is getting a little long and I don't want to hold you any longer. So I hope you understand that. I hope I was clear on this, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.